what I kind of wanted to do now was something different. I wanted to do something hardware-based, right? I wanted something that I could hold in my hands, an invention that I could say exists in physical space. So I'm here at BITS because I heard, y'all are the best of the best. Everywhere I asked, where can I find talent? Everybody said BITS. So I'm here today, particularly to see, to give y'all an opportunity to be part of something great, basically. So SmartKlock. I've always been fascinated by timepieces. Like ever since I was a kid, I collected watches. I had watches that do everything, like take pictures, watch TV on them, pretty much can do anything, ever since I was a little kid. Now, I was looking at, the history of timepieces. So I have some pictures here, and we have like Stonehenge, ancient Mayan, timepieces. That's Aztec, and that's Chinese. They're really intricate, really fascinating stuff, right? But then you look at what we have today. We have basically that. That's what we have as a clock, 21st century, and that's pretty much the best that we can do in our generation. I think we can do better. So I started SmartKlock. So SmartKlock is essentially the philosophical goal of SmartKlock is to change the paradigm shift. I want people to think differently about what a clock ought to be, right? See, the world is changing. We're communicating increasingly by social media, Twitter, Facebook, things like that. So it doesn't really make sense for a clock to merely say, I don't know, it's 1:45, right? I mean, what is going on in that individual, the individual that owns the clock? What is going on in their entire life at that particular moment, right? That's a more relevant question than what time it is. But let's put that time in context, right? What's going on in their work life, right? In terms of emails and stuff. What's going on in their social life, Facebook, Twitter, things like that. So I think that going forward, what I want to do is change in the future when we look back and we see clocks, and we say what they do. I think that we'll wonder why all it's done is tell the time. I think it will just be such a quaint concept. The last innovation in timepieces was in 1822 when they invented the chronograph. Really nothing has changed since then. All we do is just tell the time for the most part. So I think my whole idea is I wanted to make it standard that in the future when you think of a clock, you will include these core features, right? Now, from an industrial design perspective, it's not just, if you consider just the features, right? Facebook, Twitter, like one could make the argument that the whole idea is negated by like a smartphone or something. But I don't think that's necessarily true. I think that this particular piece of hardware that I'm trying to make, that I'm going to make, is it's going to be absolutely beautiful from an industrial perspective, right? From an industrial design perspective. It'll be designed to be so intuitive that anybody, including somebody from like some jungle in South America or something, will be able to use it, and it will just make sense. It will just make sense. People wouldn't wonder, how do I go from one place to another? How do I interact with this thing? Every single aspect of this thing will be so well thought out. I have a pretty specific idea of what I want it to look like and how I want it to behave. Right now, that's proprietary. I would have to maybe go sign something before I can show it. So let's forget about that. So I'm concentrating currently on the features. So once we get a prototype ready, that's what we're working on right now. To actually get a prototype. Once we get a prototype, we can mass produce it. That's the idea. And so what I'm looking for in terms of skill set, right, would be, I guess the prototyping would be Arduino. How many of y'all are familiar with Arduino? 21st century, you can actually make a prototype, upload the software onto the microcontroller, and have it running by the afternoon. It wasn't like that, even 10 years ago. So this is almost a renaissance in hardware technologies. So I think we can make use of this. So one of the things I'm looking for is Arduino programs. Another thing is Bluetooth communication between Arduino and Android iOS. So essentially, most of the information, the clock obviously has to get this information from somewhere, right? So we would use Android or iOS phones to beam this information wirelessly to the clock. In addition, we'll probably end up using Wi-Fi. This is something that, it really depends on the cost of mass production, and whether it's economically viable. But in addition, people that are interested in prototyping, that have been, done any prototyping work, that would be something, would be interesting. PCB designing. So that would be something, I don't know if any of you have ever designed PCB or have it, probably have, I guess, in school. But, so there'd be a three-phase plan for this project. Phase 1 would be the prototyping phase, which I expect to take a couple months. Phase 2 would be the design and finalization. That goes back to the whole industrial design part of it, right? Because it's absolutely essential that this thing is amazingly beautiful. That's essential. Not only that, but the whole interaction with it has to be just magic. So that's the part where the design and finalization part happens. I'm actually going to Bombay in a little while, and I'm going to talk to some industrial designers there. So that's something that's in the works. Phase 3 will be production. So that would be talking to suppliers and getting enough raw materials and spare parts in order to make thousands of this thing, right? After you make the first prototype, proceed to make thousands, right? So I think this will be revolutionary. I don't think it's just going to be a boring old clock. I think it's going to be something that's cool, right? I think eventually, see, if you think of the SmartKlock simply as, in terms of what features does a SmartKlock have, that's a little like saying a Ferrari goes forward, backward, left, and right. It's not the point of the SmartKlock, right? It's not the segue, the direction of a car is not the point. It's how much thought has been put into this beautiful piece of technology. You look at an Aston Martin, for example, or even a Ferrari or Lamborghini, and you look at the stitching, right? All these little things, and you actually look at it, it's so beautiful. It's just amazing that somebody has sat down and thought about which is the best way to make this thing. How will everything look to where it's easiest for people to use, and so it's intuitive. The Segway, excellent example, right? I don't know if anybody has ever ridden a Segway here, but it's so intuitive because it's almost like you think about going forward and this thing goes forward. You think about going backward and it goes backward. You don't even really, it takes you a while to actually figure out what you're doing physiologically that's making this thing move. So that's basically the point of SmartKlock. Now, I have this picture here. Wondering if anybody knows what it is or why I decided to put it on there. Anybody? Anybody recognize anybody in there? Yeah.
I can do the steamboat. Y'all go with this?
Absolutely. Great. That guy right there, Steve Wozniak, co-founder of that. So this is a picture from back in 1984 when the Apple was first made. Today you look back at it and you say, wow, what a revolutionary piece of technology. Right? But at the time, when they were putting it together, all the components were already there. What they did was they put it together in a beautiful package, made it easy to use. And then we have Apple, the corporation we have today, this massive behemoth. Right? So the reason I have that picture up there is because I thought, hopefully, a couple of you guys, maybe 3 or 4, would be in a picture of a SmartKlock. And 20 years from now, when that's standard, and when people are wondering how you live lived with clocks and timepieces that didn't